Hello and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogram with Keri Smith. My name's Keri. I'm your host. Today is Friday. It's a fun Friday. It's a live Friday Kerfefe break that we do. I just have a couple announcements before I announce my guest today. We don't yet have the date. I had to move it because of some things, but we're reading Political Ponerology. You still have time to join us. Even if you don't want to join us on camera and talk about it, I highly recommend this book. I think regular watchers of the show now know this is probably my favorite book that we've ever read. If you get the hard copy, I would get the copy with the foreword by Michael Rechtenwald, and we will be announcing a date for that soon. And if you like the show, I was just telling my guests, I forget to do this, so I'm going to make sure I do it today. If you like the show, there are a couple different ways to support. We have a locals, we have a Patreon and a Subscribe Star, and or if you can't support financially, if you just like the show, like share a clip. Last night we had a live interview with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, if you missed that, which was a lot of fun. And also we put out a clip yesterday from Mystery Chris and his woke movie pitch for Black in Time, Black to the Future. So that clip I highly recommend. Okay, I think that's all the announcements. I'm very excited today. I have a returning guest and friend, Sara Higdon. Hello, where are you? There you are. Hi.
Thanks for having me again. This is so much fun when I come on here. I love it.
I love talking to you, and I don't know, like shooting the shit with you. Can I say before we started, I was telling you I'm envious of your arms.
Yeah.
They're so toned.
Yeah. I spend way too much time in the gym. It's okay.
It's good. Actually, last time, or one of the times I was supposed to have you on, and I got the date wrong, and then I messaged you and you were like, I'm at the gym.
Yeah, I was playing pickleball.
What's pickleball?
So it's a kind of it's hard to explain. It's played on I guess a smaller version of a tennis court kind of, but it's very different. It's almost like
Is it
almost
racquetball?
like the scoring is like table tennis, but with life-size table tennis, I guess is probably a better way to put it. It mixed with tennis. It's a fantastic game. I love it. I'm addicted to it right now. And actually, it was Ariel Scarcella that got me addicted to it when I went to Florida and played with her. So.
Oh, I would like to try playing this. Yeah, Jules says, yeah, same Keri. Always covetous with Sarah's arm. I was telling Sara beforehand, just as inside, so I used to have, when I lived in Los Angeles, in my old life, I had a trainer, and she's a bodybuilder, and she's amazing, and she got me in such good shape. And I didn't think she could mold Linda Hamilton arms from my body, but she did. And now here, cut to today, years later, she lives with me. She's my good friend, and I'm not working out. I'm like, I have to get back to like, they're at a point now where for me, that's my thing. Everybody has their thing. The arms are the thing. Once I start seeing like the arms are going to Hades, I'm like, okay, something has to be done. Like, so anyway, I didn't bring you here today to talk about arms, but
I mean, fitness. My life is fitness, so it's okay.
Fitness is good. Yeah. Okay, I want to talk to you about. You've been so busy since we last saw you.
Yeah, I've been doing the most.
You're doing so many things. You're in the zone. You're writing lots of great pieces. You're at a lot of different events. Like, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been working on?
Yeah, so I think the last time I was on here, I think I had my first article had just kind of been written in Human Events, and that was on the sunk cost fallacy. But then just in the last couple weeks, I had a piece written in Human Events about, what was that one about? The new WPATH guidance. So last Tuesday, I had a piece that was published in Human Events about the new WPATH guidance. And then also on Tuesday, I broke the story for the Post-Millennial on gays against groomers being banned from PayPal and Venmo. And
can you just tell us real quick about the WPATH guidance for people that don't know? Because I only recently, in the past few months, learned about what WPATH means.
Yeah, so WPATH stands for the World Professional Associations of Transgender Health. They are the organization that basically gives the guidance to all doctors And most countries around the world use their guidance, because it's an international organization, for how to treat trans patients. And so they just released their Standards of Care, Volume 8, about 2 weeks ago, so a week from last Friday. And it's really interesting because it's actually about double the length of the Standards of Care 7. And they add a lot of the studies that they're basing their guidance off of in there. But when you go to some of the sections, like you go to chapter 6 is where I focused a lot of my attention on, because chapter 6 is it's dedicated to adolescence. Okay. So we're talking how we use puberty blockers and when to use cross-sex hormones. And one of the things that they really did that was really seems bad is they took all age-based recommendations off there. So yeah. And so instead of recommending puberty blockers at a certain age, or taking, going on HRT, hormone replacement therapy, at a certain age, they basically said, everybody's different, so we're not going to just put an age on it. And so what that can do is, there was one part where they said, well, maybe we would start somebody on hormone replacement therapy at 14, where it used to be 16. And then they go on to admit that possibly the reason why you might want to start earlier is puberty blockers, prolonged use of puberty blockers can cause bone density issues, which again would not be fully reversible, as they continue to say that they are fully reversible. So what's really interesting is, besides the age removal, they also added, actually, if you scroll down on here, they added, there's a lot of inconsistencies, because it says in one part, it does still state fully reversible. And then it goes on to basically make all these admissions that they're not. So they say bone density issues. They recommend advising patients that it could cause, basically lower IQ. It could cause, brain development.
This part here that you wrote, you said puberty blockers are, quote, fully reversible, end quote, a statement that is contradicted multiple times throughout the rest of the document. For example, they show concern about bone health. Statement C12C specifically mentions the negative impacts of puberty suppression has on brain development. Finally, it's mentioned that blockers will cause the penis to stay a prepubertal size, making surgery more complex and risky. That's crazy. It's like this is more of that Orwellian. I mean, they're just outright lying. Fully reversible. Yeah. By the way, it does these things.
Well, and then there's another section in there that also says, it basically makes the stunning admission that we just don't know. The studies are not clear, because it talks about the initial, like, all the studies are based on precocious puberty. So somebody goes through puberty at like 6 or 7, you want to get them to a normal puberty age. That's what the studies are all based on. It admits that they are being prescribed off-label for trans health,
because none of these, correct me if I'm wrong, none of these puberty blockers, like a lot of them, that this is not their intended purpose. It's not what they're approved by the FDA for, right?
No, right. They're approved for stuff like, again, precocious puberty that they've been using for like 30 years, which is one of the main reasons they were developed. They do use them for chemical castration, sex offenders. Now, what I always think that when people talk about chemical castration, they don't, it's not the same as a normal castration, because actually if they stop giving, like, a parole officer will give the Lupron injection every month. So you have to maintain it to maintain that that castration effect on the person. So it sounds, it's a little bit hyperbolic to like use chemical castration as the term to fight against it, but technically that's what they are. And they also use it for like IVF treatments for like, you'll take them for, a woman will take IVF like the first week or two after her cycle. And then right after that, then the doctors will put her on, will come off the Lupron, and then they have full control over the cycle from there. So they will go on drugs to develop the eggs in the, to
So
build as
it's
many eggs in the ovaries as possible, and then they will give you an injection to ovulate all those eggs, and then you go in and harvest them out.
all at once. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, I did an interview with someone about this. Mary Lou Singleton, who's a midwife. She
Mm-hmm.
at one part of that interview, she was going into the whole process of how they do IVF stuff, which she's opposed to, and I just didn't even know a lot of the particulars about it, like what you're talking about. But so anyway, your point is that
Yeah.
the Lupron and stuff like that, it's off label to give it to kids for preventing puberty for the purposes of gender affirming care.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then the last part of the WPATH guidance is really dangerous. Not that's yeah. So there's the part in there that it's probably one of the smallest pieces, but it's probably one of the most impactful because it talks about giving, treating kids when, but having parental consent in there, and it says where it's not feasible or harmful to the adolescent, then it can be done without a parent's consent. And basically, the person that wrote that section, there's a video, and I did a video about it last week, that shows that they are now looking to possibly weaponize CPS to say that it's, and in other states across the country, there have been, across the country and different countries across the world that have, basically said if you don't affirm your child's gender, it's child abuse. And so basically they'll take your kids and then transition them in some of these places, and even you guys in Texas, there was just a big case, the Jeff Younger case. Just I just saw a piece where he's not the child is basically lost.
That's the guy who's lost custody of his kid
Yeah,
because
and
of
I guess
yeah.
a judge just ruled, he's not going to be able to do that, and that's a Texas judge. So
This is the fears. Like I remember 3 years ago or so when we were first talking about this kind of stuff, and the attitude seemed to be, well, that would never happen. Like the state would never take your child from you just because you don't, affirm their gender transition.
yeah.
And then people were saying, well, it might happen in Canada, but it wouldn't happen in the US. It's happening in Texas.
Well, and yeah, that's Texas and California. And I got a little bit of a laugh on Saturday because everybody's 12 years old because because I was speaking at an event on Saturday. I was mentioning this because there is the congressperson in in California, Representative Weiner. I mentioned his name and everybody laughed. It was funny. But he has written so many just awful bills for Texas, or not for Texas, but for California. And the latest that has passed is basically if a child runs away to Texas, or why do I keep saying Texas? Jeez, runs away to California, it's basically a sanctuary to where they can, the state can take control and they will transition that child if they come there without their parents. So it's going to cause a lot of people to, run away from home and go transition in California. It's really bad.
Unfortunately, you know how there's always like for every action, that quote, there's always an equal and opposite reaction. And I think a lot of the states that are now trying to say, hey, we need legislation in place to protect kids until they're 18 from making these permanent medical decisions about their body. And states like Texas that are trying to do that, because that's happening, and because the mainstream media is characterizing it as like transphobic and bigoted and all this stuff. Now there's this reaction coming from states like California that are saying basically like, we will do this. We will do this to kids.
Yep.
And we're, I don't know if they've used the word sanctuary yet for transgender stuff, but it's sort of what they're saying is come here and flout the rules of your state. And I've even seen people online. You probably know who this person is. I'm sometimes late to YouTube and Twitter drama. This person who was instrumental in getting Nick Rekieta banned this week, Keffels.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, I wasn't familiar, but Keffels is I started reading more about him, and so anyway,
there's a few of them. Keffels is one
where this person
is the S Queer is another one.
This person is making homemade like hormone supplements and stuff in the bathtub, and then admitting openly, we will help kids get this without your parents knowing. There's like multiple tweets. I want to do a video about this person because it's like,
and that's the other one that should, they don't even need to make it at home, because a month or so ago there was the whole story about Eli Ehrlich, who was basically saying that they have a system where they get all these hormones from doctors and stuff like that, and then they send them around to kids across the country without possible parent stuff doing. And then there was a doctor, and I actually did a reel for Outspoken about this, because there was a doctor who, I remember her name, it was actually Daphne Strasma, who had said that she will fill a prescription from her patients, no questions asked. So basically what they can do is a patient goes, gets a 3-month supply of hormones, doctor signs off on the prescription, and then like a month later, go get another 3 months of supply. Doctor, no questions asked, will fill the prescription. And so now they can send that other 3 months out to whoever they want.
That's crazy. And there are people openly on Twitter for you. I mean, this was a surprise to me. So people in the chat, if you don't know this, they're not getting banned for saying stuff like this. One of the things Keffel said was, "I will trans your kids." It was like this sort of, what would you call that? This sort of like just gleeful, malicious, like, "I will do this, haha."
Yeah.
Like, and they can come to me and without you knowing, and giving advice on kids on how to hide this stuff from parents, and that's just allowed. Like, I don't know. It was a shock to me. That's all. I just read about that stuff.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's well, and this is the thing. I've been talking about this for a while, because I have said, if you completely ban like some of this stuff, I mean, the black market's always gonna flourish. And actually, it's around the world. DIY HRT has been an issue for probably the last 6 or 7 years. It's been a thing for a long time. Just now it's starting to get, because these people are so brazen that they are just telling you that they are doing it, committing multiple felonies. I had somebody, I don't know what it is about me. I post a comment on I think it might have been Gays Against Groomers post about Eli, and somebody came on there and said, "Oh, I do this too." Like, literally just admitted it right to me on Instagram, and I deleted all their posts about it. But I was like, I took screenshots, and I was like, "What is this? Why do people feel the need to come to me?" Just like one of those that stripper that was on Libs of TikTok, it was like a stripper plot that everybody was like, "Oh, that's a stripper." Basically, you're not wearing anything at the drag show.
Oh, I missed this one.
That person actually commented. So it was a bad video on Libs of TikTok. Like, this person was basically naked with like pasties covering here and here, and it looked like a female stripper.
Mm-hmm.
And Libs of TikTok said it was a female stripper, and then I commented on how it wasn't even on one, again, Gays Against Groomers post, how it's like, that's not even a trans, or that's not even a drag queen. That's a female stripper, and they're using the guise of drag. They're using the drag as a shield to host that for children. And then that person literally, it was the person that was in the video messaged me, like commented on my post and said, "No, that's me." And I'm not a female. I'm trans. And like, was like so proud of themselves for stripping in front of children.
Wow.
And you should actually see. You think people? You should actually see their Twitter. Their Twitter is like all nudity. It's all this other stuff too. It's really just awful.
Do you think people are more say some of this stuff to you because you're trans? By the way, Maverick's asking if you're trans in the chat. And
yes,
I'm sure that comes up a lot. Yeah. Do you think though that there's this assumption that you have certain opinions or beliefs, or that you're a leftist because you're trans?
It could. I think so, but it almost seems like they're arguing with me when they do this. So it's like, or not arguing with me, but they jump in and they're like, "Okay, well, it's it's almost to be like prove something to me that like this is okay because I'm doing this type of stuff, and it's like, why are you you're actually
it's
admitting
like
this to me?
It's almost like the Duper's Delight, maybe, where people, or if you watch some police confessions and stuff, where people kind of like pulling one over on you, like letting you know that they did or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That psychology behind like, I did this, like that person saying, "Oh, I'm gonna transition your kids." It's sort of like this dark, I don't know, it's this dark glee.
It's like Jeffrey.
I wanted to put up this. Yeah, have you been watching Dahmer?
Oh my God, Mikey's videos.
Oh, I haven't seen Mike's videos about it, but I watched that show. It's very dark.
What show?
Dahmer.
Oh,
I thought you were talking about Jeffrey Dahmer.
Talking about.
Oh
no.
You're talking
I
about
have started watching that show, but yeah.
You're talking about Jeffrey. What's his name? The child, the guy who is non-binary. The creeper.
Yeah, the creeper.
Kids.
You will accept us.
Yeah.
We will. Hand your phone to the kids type. Yeah, that one.
He's so creepy. He's always asking to speak to the kids alone. Like, it's that guy's.
I want to speak to the kids.
Yeah, it's super creepy. Okay, I want to talk about this article. So you just published this piece in Human Events. I am trans. Here's why we need to start listening to detransitioners. And you were the first to tell me. I think I had seen a clip of Chloe, but I didn't recall the whole story. Can you tell us a little bit about her and what this article's about? By the way, look at this. Yes. They're advertised. They know that I'm in this. They know I'm looking for an oven. Stop it, Google.
It's everywhere.
And these are the ones I've been looking at. Gosh.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly what it is. Okay. So yeah. So Chloe is, she's an amazing young woman. She's 18 years old now. And she's speaking out. And she gets a lot of hate for speaking out. But her story is at the age of 13, she started puberty blockers. And then a little bit later that same year, she started taking testosterone. Fast forward when she was 15, she started taking, or she had a double mastectomy, like the same mastectomy that they give breast cancer patients. And then at age 16, she ended up detransitioning.
All of this before 16. Like
all of it before the age of 16.
Puberty blockers, hormones, double mastectomy, all while she's a child. Detransitions at 16. Okay.
Yep. And she lives in California, and so that's part of it too. And she spoke out at the California General Assembly, and she's and so that's when we go back to what we were talking about earlier when we were talking the issues with California. It's like anything's going to go with these people too, and so she really has a big fight there, but she's speaking out nationally and involved in doing more nationally to prevent this happening from more young children.
Can we watch this little clip of her, because she's speaking a lot now about what it was like? And the thing about it, I love that you wrote this piece, because what's been happening for the past few years is that, I think anyway, who knows, because the mainstream media won't talk about it, but it seems that there's an uptick, of course there is, in people who are detransitioning, mostly biological girls who transitioned when they were young, who are now young adults and saying, I made a mistake. And why did the medical establishment let me do this as a kid? Like, why did my parents let me do this? And the mainstream media wants to ignore these people, suppress their stories, or attack them. Like, there's no support for detransitioners in the whole trans ideology cult.
Well, there's not. There's also not a cohesive study to show how many people are detransitioning, because all they've ever really looked at was self-reporting. And so if you just simply stop going to your doctor, so if you didn't have if a young girl didn't have a hysterectomy, then, or, a young boy doesn't have an orchidectomy or a vaginoplasty, then there's no reason for them to go back to a doctor. They can simply just come off their hormones and go back to being the way that they were, but not fully. But they never have to really go back to their doctor again. And so there's no follow-up from doctors when patients just kind of disappear from their roles. And so that's why the detransition rate is so flawed in how they do it. And actually, WPATH has a section for detransitioners in their new guidance, which they never had before. So even they are admitting that,
wow,
we still need to care for detransitioners, because a lot of them are still having to take hormones the rest of their lives because they did have those surgeries, as well as the psychotherapy and stuff like that that they still need help with, because most of them still have gender dysphoria. They just realized being, transition didn't help what they were going through, and it would actually be easier to live as a detransitioner instead.
This is
And so
yeah.
it's really interesting. Now, the one thing I said at the end of this piece, and this is why I think detransitioners, probably the most important thing about them, is the fact of the matter is you cannot have informed consent without both sides of the issue. And what detransitioners do is they tell the side and they tell people to take a second look, because this is not rare. It's not rare. And basically what happens is if you don't get the other side of the story, you're not actually getting informed consent. Like you are not being told everything that could happen, and detransition is something that could happen. And so you're not being informed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just going to read
that
this
last
part.
paragraph is the one.
Which part? The one I highlighted,
No,
or down below?
It was the next one. I said the fact is, in order to have informed consent, you need to be informed.
Yeah.
But you can read the one above it.
Yeah,
too,
I'd like to read this one. It says the biggest service detransitioners provide is the other side of the story. Many gender nonconforming people are sold a lie that they are probably trans because they don't fit the stereotypes for their sex. Many young girls on the spectrum are being preyed upon because their disorder presents itself similarly to that of gender dysphoria. Yeah, journalist Christina Buttons, who I've had her on the show, she said the same thing in an interview, that if someone had told her she was a boy, she would have grabbed onto that and not let go. I think, I mean, we all know people at this point. There's so many people coming out now and saying they're trans. Like, I'm not sure about the chat, but I know several people in the past couple of years who it's that rapid onset thing where it's just like suddenly like, oh yeah, I think that's what it is. And just anecdotally, some of these people, it's like, how do you encourage them to dig a little deeper? It used to be, I think if you went to therapy, people would try and figure out, well, what are all the underlying issues? Like maybe you have some type of personality disorder, or maybe you have some type of trauma or something else that's not addressed. Let's make sure that it's gender dysphoria. But there's all these people now who are just immediately going in. And it's like, well, if you change yourself physically, like that'll take care of it. Like that'll take care of whatever your issue is. And I just,
and there was actually Billboard Chris posted something yesterday about one of his recent conversations on the street and talking to somebody, and it was I basically commented on, like, these people, like, this person is not trans and they're trying to speak for us and they're making us sound stupid. Because basically Chris goes, well, what does it feel like to be a girl? And he was like, well, I don't know. He goes, do you know what it feels like to be this? Or, like, if it's based on a feeling, how do you know what it's like to be a girl? I don't. I know what it's like to have gender dysphoria and not feel comfortable in my own body. But it doesn't mean that I hate this narrative that I'm a boy or I'm a girl trapped in a boy's body. Like, I hate that. That is not what it is, like, type thing. I think we need to not stop saying that, because I think the issue is yes, I have gender dysphoria. I don't know what it feels like to be I don't know what it feels like to be a woman, because, and honestly, do you know what it feels like to be another woman? Like, that's the other thing. It's like, do all women feel the same? Like, it's an individual feeling that you can't explain.
It drives me crazy. And I'm so happy you said that, because I don't like that narrative. I don't like that version of trying to explain what it is either, when they say exactly what you just said. Well, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. Like, no, you're not. You're a man who's not comfortable in your body, but like you don't know what is a woman is not a feeling. Like anyway, I appreciate you saying that. Look, we're going to show this video of Chloe because I want to close this window, because I agree with Dawn. Dawn says, I find the throbbing ovens distracting. Yeah, I do too. I'm sorry. Somebody told me to get ad blocker and I haven't gotten it yet. And now I'm regretting the fact that I haven't gotten it yet. You guys, I've been looking for a reduced price oven though, so maybe I should be clicking on that. Okay.
I know, now you're like, okay, now I got to go back and click on this, and we're going to go shopping after the show.
Yeah. Okay, let's watch this. This is Chloe. Yeah. So she's been talking about her story of, as you said, being on puberty blockers and hormone treatment by the time she was how old? 13?
13, yeah.
13, and then double mastectomy at 15 and started detransitioning at 16. So this is part of her story.
I don't know if I'll be able to fully carry a child. And I might be at increased risk for certain cancers, namely cervical cancer. And because I do not have my breasts, I no longer have breasts. I'm not able to breastfeed whatever future children I have. That realization actually was one of the biggest things that lead to me realizing that this was not the path that I should have taken.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was lucky. So everybody knows, I was speaking at an event with Chloe on Saturday for an organization called No Left Turn Education, and that's kind of what they do. They have chapters all around the country that they're doing. I also spoke with another one of their chapters in Virginia on Tuesday, but on Saturday, I was really lucky because it was me and Chloe were on stage together, just us two, and they were. It was kind of a Q&A session, but I was able to tell Chloe just how much I admire her to that crowd, and just tell her because of this, because I think she's incredibly brave for what she's doing, and at such a young age, her voice is so important, and for the hate that she gets, it's unfathomable what she goes through.
Yeah, they hate her. This is the thing about that cult, and I do think of it as a cult, which is they will make a poster child out of you and hold you up as the trans kid to push this ideology on more children. But if you say this was a mistake and you're brave enough like her to go out and tell your story, they will tear you down. Like, it's so sad. That just yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I told you when you guys were on, when I actually stopped in to check out the show on Monday, you guys were talking, and I had just finished this piece because I do talk about that a lot in that piece, because there's the section where I talk about how cults and cult leaders, and I talk about how they shame anybody who leaves in order to like make everybody else afraid to leave. And that was when you guys were on the show on Monday. I had just submitted the piece to Human Events, and so that quote that Saul Alinsky was on my mind when I put it in the chat on Monday, because it is Saul Alinsky's rule number 12 is pick a target, freeze it, isolate it, and that's how they basically go after anybody who dissents. And
so you see what
this is a cult.
Yeah, you see what happens to people. So imagine that if you're a kid, you rush into this. You don't have parents who protect you from it, or maybe they try to, but the state doesn't allow them to, and you don't. And so you rush into it. But imagine, like, it's hard enough, I think, psychologically to come to terms with, like, for this young woman to decide this was wrong. It's hard enough to come to terms with that, because now you've invested. Think about it psychologically. It's like it's the sunken cost thing, where you've put so much into it. And you've told all your friends and family, I'm the opposite sex. I'm transgender. You've gotten them all on board. It's become a big thing. Or maybe you haven't. Maybe you lost family members because of it. So you've sunk a lot of costs into it. You've put a lot into it. And now to psychologically reckon with, I may have made a mistake. That's hard enough. But then on top of it, you know what's going to be done to you.
Yep.
If you say something. Like.
Yep. And I pointed out in there, it's because these people are so brave, because they speak out. Most people that detransition obviously aren't speaking out about it, because, and as I point out in there's actually a person who was a radical activist, shaming lesbians, and then has gone back to living as a boy again, or a man again. And now, but he did it so, like, just quietly. Like this very loud, outspoken trans activist shaming lesbians and trying to get access to lesbian spaces, and now quietly detransitioned. Yeah, I mentioned his name in the piece, and that's the same with why transsexuals don't come out too. It's like they fit in this. They've built this stealth bubble around them that they don't really have to. And because why would you, if you're going to take all this hate and stuff like that? Why are you going to speak out? Which we're seeing a little bit. We're seeing, especially since we've created the Trans Against Groomer partner coalition with Gays Against Groomers, because we want to build that up to make sure that people know that, yeah, we're not a monolith and there's more of us out there than you think that don't agree with what's going on.
Can you tell us a little bit about, because before you go, I know you have to go in a little bit. Can you tell us about Gays Against Groomers, and then we can pull up your piece, the story about them getting banned from payment processors. I know that some people in my audience are familiar with them, but they're still a relatively new organization. So if you can tell me what they're about.
Yeah, so Gays Against Groomers started it was in July of this year, really when a lot of the drag queen, like all the kids were being taken to drag shows and stuff like that. And basically, it just comes out as we are just a group of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and trans people, LGBT people that are against the medicalization, the sexualization, and the indoctrination of children into this ideology. That's what we're fighting. We're trying to protect kids from, the harm that's being done. It's kind of like what I hear even most conservatives say. It's like, nobody really cares what adults do for the most part, but we're focusing on protecting children. And so for that, yes, we last Tuesday, around 2 a.m., Jamie got the message from Venmo and PayPal that we had been banned and we can't receive money via those two payment processors. And then the next day, as things started heating up, Google banned Gays Against Groomers account. So we no longer have a Gmail account or access to our drives or anything like that.
You guys, look, I'm sorry, the throbbing ovens might come back, so we'll just have this up here for a second. This is Sarah's piece in the Post Millennial, breaking PayPal, Venmo permanently suspend Gays Against Groomers. So there are the ovens. I'm sorry, so they can't raise money.
It's dual ovens.
Oh my gosh, just lots of them. Buy this oven. Okay. So, but we've gotten so used to this stuff. I fear that it doesn't have the same impact that it used to, because now you hear it and you're like, yeah, of course. They permanently banned Gays Against Groomers from being able to use PayPal or Venmo to raise money. And so what was their excuse for doing so?
They didn't say. They just said for violation of their, terms of services. And they didn't describe what we violated.
This is so common where they just use a vague. So when my church got banned from advertising on Facebook, and they didn't say anything specific. They just said your church has broken community standards.
Well, and that's I think Google responded to The Advocate. So when The Advocate was writing their story on this, The Advocate, very left-wing publication, when they were writing their story about this, they had gotten a statement from Google that apparently just said that it was for, hate speech violations or something like that. And so it's like, okay, well, and that's the thing, is the left-wing media, their headlines were anti-trans organization, anti-trans hate group. So now they're just being called an anti-trans hate group because again,
does that mean you're anti-trans?
Well, that's the whole thing, is calling an LGBT organization. So first it was, remember, that it was all anti-LGBT organizations. Anything like the term groomer was considered anti-LGBT. Well, then Gays Against Groomer comes out and that kind of ruins that narrative. So now Gays Against Groomers is this anti-trans organization, even though now Trans Against Groomers was blocked on Twitter within like the first 24 hours that we had it up. And so now it's because they can't, like, that ruins their next narrative and they don't really have another narrative to go,
It destroys their narrative, because it's like, it is gay people, it is trans people.
And what all these left wing organizations actually or publications actually missed, and they didn't even mention the post millennial article, where a trans person wrote the breaking story for the post millennial that broke the entire story nationally, and yet it's an anti-trans organization. And I'm the one that wrote the article based on, talking about it.
And they don't mention that. Yeah.
They don't even mention the article, because then it would be like, well, who wrote that?
Yeah. Oh, a trans person. Oh, it's a
trans person
from
wrote
the
it.
anti-trans group.
Wrote it in the anti-trans post millennial.
Yeah.
It was funny. Somebody posted my human events article about the WPATH guidance in a trans support group that I'm in.
Mhm.
And it was, somebody said, basically they wouldn't even look at the article because it was from human events. And they said that's like this alt-right, hate group organization. And I was like, I couldn't out myself in there, because I just kind of, if I even say anything, they'll ban me from the group. But but they it was just so bad, because I'm like, I wrote the piece and you're saying it's a transphobic publication. I'm like, I wrote the piece. Like, I tried to tell the person behind the scenes, like, did you tell? I'm like, you should tell them, a trans person wrote that article.
Yeah. It's like what they do to Candace Owens. Except
Yeah.
that's about her race, and this is about your, being transgender. Because you destroy the narrative by your very individualistic, like your own, being a person who has your own opinions, who doesn't let them speak for you, then they have to tear you down the same way they do her. I've been in some of these social justice groups where somebody will come in where there's like a lot of clueless, sort of new middle-aged white women who are in a lot of these woke group, like local community groups, and they're just learning all the lingo and they're just learning all the social justice rules, and they don't yet understand that they all contradict themselves. And so some of the times I was in there, one of these groups where this woman was like, I don't understand this, and she shared a Candace Owens piece. She's like, she's saying she disagrees with this and this and this, and I know as a white woman I'm supposed to shut up and listen to black people, but she's saying all this stuff we don't agree with, and I was waiting to see what they would say, and sure enough, they come in like, oh, well, not that black person, don't listen to her, because it's like they do that same shit to you, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, all the time. Actually, I had this straight white liberal woman comment on a post I made yesterday, telling me that I was ignorant because telling me that queer theory is not being taught in schools, and we're not trying to indoctrinate children to be in, LGBT. And I'm like, okay. Like, yeah, I call, this is what I love to do. I love to call it cisplaining. I'm like, are you going to cisplain me?
Yes.
Isn't that what it is? I mean, isn't that what you would call it?
Yeah, just flip the rules back on them.
It's when you're the wrong kind of trans. And it is interesting because, I don't know if I've been on here since Eventbrite. So the event that I was doing on Tuesday with No Left Turn in Virginia, we actually, we aired Matt Walsh's What is a Woman? And then we had a conversation after, like a Q&A session after, and mostly just took questions from the audience, and I was a panel member on it. Well, Eventbrite a few weeks ago had basically removed our posting on there for, again, violating hate speech laws. And so that actually got me a shout out from Matt Walsh on his channel, because he actually talked about the event and was like, and basically he said, so to be clear, a movie about trans people followed by a discussion with trans people is still banned for supposedly bringing, inciting violence against trans people.
How?
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. But I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm just, the wrong kind of trans. So
yeah, not that trans person. Well, Sarah, I know you have to go. Before you take off, I'm just going to read the super chat from Tyler Treducken, $5. Thank you. Says the epidemic of transitioning kids wasn't happening 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. What happened? What changed?
So a lot of it goes back to, it started happening around 2014, 2015, I think, is when the spike, if you actually look at the charts, the spike kind of started to go up. But it really took off in about 2016. And I'll tell you why. What happened was in 2015, gay marriage was legalized in the United States. So what do activists have to fight for at that point? Basically, all of our rights have been granted. We get all our we get equal. We basically get equality at that point. So in 2016, if you remember, Charlotte, North Carolina passed the first basically self-ID bathroom laws that basically said every business in Charlotte has to allow anybody who self-IDs as a woman to use a woman's bathroom or vice versa in the men's bathroom. State of North Carolina took that and completely banned any trans person from using the facilities that associate with the gender that they present as, right? And so basically what was never an issue, because trans people have been using the bathrooms and facilities of their of what they present as for years and years and years. And most people really didn't care as long as you were respectful in there. But the self-ID law and then the all-out ban caused this strife that went all the way across the country. And that's kind of what caused the spike in transitioning, because now these kids can do this and they can transition or whatnot, or they can say that they're trans and then have a community to be a part of and to fight with. And so that's really what it was. It tied what used to be the goth kids who just wanted to be counterculture and anti-establishment to an activist cause. And so that and really, I don't even think before that time we didn't have students protesting, and now we have walkouts in Virginia and all that stuff over politics, where I don't ever remember doing even being involved in or worrying about protests and all that stuff when I was in school. It's kids should be kids. They shouldn't be worrying about activism in schools. And now it's these teachers are pushing activism.
Bringing it. I'll tell you my take on it, and it's similar to yours, but the social justice that I was indoctrinated into in college. So I was indoctrinated. I graduated in 2000 from Duke, and it was not in the hard sciences I was taking, but it was in my minor. My minor was women's studies, and it was thoroughly, of course, it was there. That's where I picked it up. I did not pick it up in elementary school. I did not pick it up in my hard science classes at college, but it was kind of focused in those areas in the elite institutions, right, at that time. Since then, everyone my age and some people older went out into the world and brought this ideology with them, and a lot of them became teachers, and they brought it into the elementary schools. And like you're saying, kids weren't protesting and doing all that stuff when you and I were growing up, but they sure are now, because the social justice ideology is in the classroom starting in kindergarten now. And part of it is the trans. It's I remember in 2000, I can't remember. It was probably, this is after I'd graduated. I took it with me into the entertainment world where I was working with comedians. And this one comedian I used to represent, I almost exclusively worked with social justice comics. This one comic I worked with, W. Kamau Bell, I remember him saying to me, it must have been around 2010 or 11. We were talking about what you just said, the gay marriage being legalized. And he said something he was talking about the deplorable. He didn't use that word, but that's what he's talking about. Them, they, right? He's the guys with the God's guns and pickup trucks. He's just wait till they see what's coming next, transgender rights. Just wait till they see. And at the time, I was squarely in the left, and I remember thinking, it's so weird to think back on that time, being this is the next frontier. But it's what you're saying. There's always, once you've achieved equal rights, then it's what comes next. They don't just close up shop. They continue going. They take these defunct movements, these movements that have achieved some kind of measurable goal, and then they just move on to something else. And so I kind of wonder what's coming after trans.
Well, this is interesting too, because it was, and see, queer theory had a two-prong approach to it as well to guide into this direction. You had, and again, it kind of helps build numbers at this point too to fight their cause. So you had the LGBT rights, but then you also had third wave feminists. Third wave feminists had been pushing equity, and now look, they're trying to combine it and to make fourth wave feminism to be about gender ideology instead of sex. So when you combine those two together, you get a much larger spear to be able to affect change. So it's a much larger, louder group as a whole in fighting these causes. It's kind of like how Antifa teamed up with Black Lives Matter, and now how Antifa is tagging on to these. Well, most of them are these LGBT, like the queer activists, anyways. But even though it's interesting because when you hear people talk about like the BLM activists and the Antifa and the queer theorists, they kind of don't like each other when you hear about stuff behind the scenes.
Well, there's always
but they fight
infighting, and they're
together.
always they fight together because they have a common goal. And even if they don't recognize what that goal is, because a lot of them don't consciously recognize what it is, they think they're fighting oppression, and that's why we're all joining together. It's about destroying Western civilization. Like they just don't. A lot of them are not cognizant of that. Okay, I know you have to run. Cole, you guys, welcome back, Cole. Thank you for the super chat. He says, "Look how far this channel's come. I was gone only for a second. Now 13K subs. Keep going. Praying for your success." Thank you, sir. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you back. Cole's my very first mod. We just had a porn bot in the chat, Cole. So if you see another one, take care of it. And then before you go, I have to clear this up. Channel Julio says Keri has Grover Muppet arms. No, not yet. That's why I said I have to get back to the gym because it's the tone is gone, but I can't have it get to Grover Muppet arms. I will not have that people throwing that rumor out there.
That's why you always show.
I'm like, no. Oh, I gotta get them built back up. Okay. Andrew Joyner gives a super sticker. Thank you very much. Sarah, tell people where they can find you before you take off.
So you can go to my website, just sarahhigdon.com. That kind of there's a links page on there, and that has a link to everything. That has a link to all my articles. It has links to all my social media platforms. And you can go on there. And there's also a donor box if you guys want to support me as well. But in terms of everything else, just go to it's Sara Higdon _ on Twitter and Instagram, which are probably the two biggest platforms I'm using right now. And then Sara Higdon on YouTube as well.
Cool. And we have all of those links below in the description of the video, so you guys can check it out. Thank you, Sarah, for spending time with us today. Cool.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad you asked. I love it.
Okay, take care. You guys,
we'll see ya.
I think I'm going to stick around for a little bit after Sarah takes off. We'll see how long this lasts. I've only done one stream by myself because I feel uncomfortable when I'm just talking to the camera. I like having conversations with people. So if you guys have, why don't we do a Q&A? If there's something you have questions about, I'll answer it. And then I got to get ready to go to a show with my husband. But Jules says, I love Sarah. Yeah, I do too. I think Sarah's voice is very important. Like, I think a lot of, just as she was saying, the detransitioners' voices are important and the mainstream media is trying to completely ignore them. I think her voice is important too, because they want to speak for trans people. And here she is saying, no, like, you don't speak for me. And of course, getting called internally transphobic for it and all that. So, okay, let's see. Is there if there's nothing from you guys, if we're not talking, then I'm just going to take off. So you did a good job. Okay, thank you. Good. Let's talk about your interior design. You seem to be enjoying maximalism as I do. Well, Rib, actually, I'll tell you guys, those of you who are regulars who hang out here quite a bit, this whole maximalism, the stuff behind me, it's really just to cover up the fact that we started taking the wallpaper down in this room and then we didn't finish it because we ended up changing the priority of the rooms that we're renovating. So this room is like number 4 on the list now. So I just tried to cover that up with a bunch of stuff. It kind of bothers me. I can't wait till I have a studio like I used to have, where it's just, maybe one simple piece of art behind me, much less distracting. And I know what color I'm going to paint and everything. We haven't gotten there yet. If you're interested in renovation, I will say we just got our bathroom done. Well, the bathroom's not completely done. We got our shower finished. And after living in the new old house, for almost 5 months without a shower, I can tell you I will never take a shower for granted again. We were driving to a gym to use the shower. Anthony eventually got to the point where he was just going out in the backyard with a garden hose, which I didn't do, but now it's like, just to be able to go. He said before I started the show, he's like, I'm going to the gym and then I'm going to come back to my house and take a shower in my house. He's so excited. So that's where we're at. On our list, we have the bathroom. The guest bath is our first room. As soon as that's finished, we're going to do the kitchen. And as soon as the kitchen's finished, we're going to finish my husband's music studio. And then the fourth room is my podcast room. So it will be coming. Let's see. I went to hear about your vacation. Did you love the atmosphere and food in Europe? I did. I actually did a live stream. It was the first time I've done one by myself from Europe, from Germany. And maybe it was the second time. I can't remember. But anyway, I haven't done that many of them. But I did one from Germany and I loved it. It was great. The biggest takeaway that I've been thinking about a lot and that I've talked about a lot is that everything is so old there. And it was my first time in Germany, Switzerland, and France. And it just put things in perspective for me. Like I love history, the history of places and things. Like I love antiques. I love old towns that are still kind of preserved in Texas and what they look like 50 years ago, right? Like the Eddie Izzard joke. And it put in perspective how new our American experiment is, like how young we are. Because everything that feels old to me, like our new old house is 100 years old. That feels old to me. But then you're in Europe and you're in a cathedral that they started building in the year 1100. And just I've thought a lot about that because you would have generations of people working on these buildings who knew that they would never see the finished product. They were working on it and then their kids were working on it. They died. Their kids were working on it. And their kids were working on it for hundreds of years. And I'm just thinking about that kind of work ethic and the way they thought about things and building this really beautiful thing that's going to be there for future generations. It's not even for them to enjoy. And last night when I was talking to Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, I was thinking about this again because we were talking about the so-called culture war and fighting woke ideology. And I asked him, I was thinking, do you think we'll ever defeat this belief system in our lifetime? And that's a thought that I wonder what you guys think. I've been kicking that around a lot lately because it's almost like if you're fighting against social justice ideas, if you're living today and you recognize it for the evil that it is, for the totalitarianism, for the authoritarianism, the remnants of Marxism that it is, and you're fighting against it, it's almost like those people who were working on the foundation of those cathedrals. You may not expect to defeat it in our lifetime, but it's like you're doing it for the next generation. Do you guys know what I mean? I don't know if I'm articulating myself well, but those cathedrals made me think about that in a different way. So, and then we also went to a church this was the oldest one we visited, that they started building it in the year 679, I think. And my brain I don't even understand that. I was like, are they missing a one from the beginning? Dan Trainer says it might take a generation or two. Yeah, I'm starting to think it will. I'm starting to think I may not be alive by the time this belief system is defeated. And that's okay. It's like you're doing it for the future. Dion, I plan to teach my grandchildren to fight it tooth and nail. I am the new Sarah Connors. I need to work on my arms. Yeah, you and me both. Okay. AH says, no, the WEF is winning. Authoritarianism is coming. Well, I don't exactly know, AH. I think it might be coming, but I know that ultimately it will fail. I just know that in my gut. Like, I know it will fail. You don't have to agree. But the only question I have is how much authoritarianism we get before it fails. And you're right, it might be a situation where things have to get really bad before the majority wakes up and does something about it. Like maybe that's required. I don't know, if you look back through history at awful times, it sort of seems like maybe things reach a tipping point where they have to get really bad before the majority will do anything, because everyone's going along with the narrative. Everyone's afraid to say the truth. They think that they think all their neighbors agree with it, and so they pretend they agree with it too. But Wikipedia snippet says it's untenable. Yeah, I think it is. I don't think it can last. So it's just a matter of how bad it gets before then. Let's see. Are there any other questions? Did I miss any? Dan, do you have time for a hobby? What would it be? Oh, that's a great question. Well, I used to knit a long time ago. Over 10 years ago. I joke that I'm a remedial knitter. I never got past doing scarves. I did do one hat, but I think that hat might have been crocheted. And so I've started, when the fine ladies of politically incorrect knitters allow me to come on their show, I've started picking knitting back up. And I am supposed to be going to a big knitting retreat with some of these ladies at the beginning of the year. So I'm getting a little bit back into that. I've started working with a furniture maker, which is a lot of fun, and learning some things about making furniture, like the different types of machinery. And we have a lot of in the house, a lot of different pieces that I need to refinish. So I guess you could call that a hobby. It's also practical because I'm going to fix them up for the house. But I have some old pieces of my grandmother's and my great grandmother's. We have an old wardrobe that was my great grandma's that I'm going to fix up. And so I'm very excited about that. So I guess you could call that a hobby. Let's see. What are the deets on this knitting retreat? Lissa, I can't remember. I will not forget. I will find you on Twitter and send you the details. But I think it's in January, February, and it's in the Carolinas. And a bunch of the unwoke knitters are going to be there, the politically incorrect knitters. So I'll send it to you. And then how many hats do you have approximately? Here's what's funny. I don't actually have as many hats, I don't think, as I do boots, cowboy boots. It's just because when you're on a podcast, people see your head. They don't see your feet, but they think I love hats. I love boots. I love dressing, like, I don't know, dressing in a way that makes me happy when I go out. But I don't know as much about hats as I do boots. I would say I maybe have 20, but they're not all like very nice hats or anything. You guys see my favorite ones if you watch this show. I tend to like the more Western style. And I also love the flat cap that Pirate Tomsky sent me. That's like a go-to. But what I'm really into is cowboy boots. I used to sell handmade cowboy boots. I know a lot about them. I regularly have different friends who I keep an eye out on eBay for like a nice pair in their size. And there are some that I want that I don't yet have. And I mean, I could talk about boots forever. They're if you saw me, there was an episode we did where I got to talk with Hunter Avalon, who's a person who I guess is kind of the inverse of me. He said he was on the right, and he was a very popular YouTuber on the right, and he ended up leaving and going to the left. And he was late to the interview. We were doing it live, so I ended up talking about cowboy boots. So if you want to see that, like some of that talk about different brands, you can go check out that episode. Okay, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. I really enjoy hanging out with you guys. Thanks for helping me feel more comfortable just like talking to the screen. We're gonna run this ad for my church. My church was banned from being able to advertise on Facebook, so here's an ad for those guys, and thank you guys for hanging out today. The mission statement for the Church on the Square in Georgetown, Texas, is to revive the church, reach the city, and renew the culture. I happened to attend the very first church service just because I saw an ad on Facebook, which is interesting because I know other people who found the church that way, and Facebook has since stripped our church of the ability to advertise. So I'm here to tell the deprogrammed audience, anyone who's interested, where they can find them. That first service, by the way, that was when I knew I had found my home, because the sermons are something that feeds your mind and your soul. Our pastor is Bradley J. Helgerson. I often describe him as a mix between Jordan Peterson and C.S. Lewis. If you're interested in listening to some of the sermons, you can find them all online on the Church on the Square YouTube page. You can also find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. If you happen to live in the Georgetown, Texas area, you're also welcome to visit with us any Sunday. We meet at 10 a.m. outside, right on the Georgetown Square on the courthouse lawn. If it's hot or if it's raining, then we meet in Ken's Guitars, which is also right there on the square. I hope to see some of you there, and thank you very much. You guys, I was going to end it after that ad, but then I remembered this. I sent this to Mike. Mike Harlow did a stream last night. If you don't know Mike Harlow, go check out his YouTube page. He did a stream last night with his mom where he just had her reacting to different videos. And I sent this to him, but it was too late. He didn't get to show it. So I'm going to show it to you guys. I'm like 9 years late to this ridiculous video, but this makes me laugh so hard. And I think this video is the key to uniting people across all party lines, across all religious lines. This is just, everybody can enjoy this, this woman. And I'll tell you before I show it, this is a real woman. I found the original video, and this is a real rant that she did online. And I think I love it so much because people are just so weird. This woman is so, just how obsessed and serious she is about this topic. It's like, you couldn't write a character like this. Like, you couldn't make a character this great in a piece of fiction. This woman is real, and it's truth is stranger than fiction. Okay, here we go. We're going to watch this together. For those of you who still hung around, here we go. Enjoy this. Let's see. Can you guys see that? Oh, there it is. And I just learned how to, I should just full screen this. There we go. Okay. It's called I Might Boycott Bath and Body Works.
Hello, everybody. This is going to be extremely explicit. So if you don't like swearing or angry people from Wisconsin, then turn your mother effing camera off now. I just got back from Bath and Body Works, and I'm going to start from the very beginning.
That's the best. That's the best. Because you're like, she's like, if you don't like swearing, you don't like an angry, horrible story, you better turn your camera off. And you're like, oh my goodness, what's going to come next? What happened? She goes, so I just got back from Bath and Body Works. And so you're like, okay, where's this going? I just love, that's one of the funniest. That's the first laugh line. And she's not even trying to be funny.
I'm so mad right now. You guys literally have no idea. I was shaking. Like, for the past hour, I have been shaking to the point where I couldn't even make a video because I was so mad. So let me backtrack. If you guys have been watching my videos, you all know that I have been searching high and low ever since they had the candle sale, 2 for $20 candles at Bath and Body Works. I have been searching for 2 cents. I've been searching for the winter candy apple.
Okay.
And the iced gingerbread.
Got it.
This is the last day of the sale, Sunday. I have been calling my store in Appleton, Wisconsin. I want everybody to know this happened in Appleton.
Do you guys see it? You couldn't make a character this. If somebody went on SNL and tried to come up with this lady, they couldn't come up with someone as wonderful as her. Okay. I mean, wonderfully awful, but wonderful in terms of like, she's so unintentionally hilarious.
I have been calling my store every day for the past week, wanting these 2 cents. I want winter candy apple,
okay,
iced gingerbread. They were supposed to come out. They were launching in the stores October 29th. So they were supposed to be out.
I mean, they should have been there.
I've been calling Green Bay, Appleton, Fond du Lac, and the outlet in Oshkosh. All
the number of stores that she calls every day, 4 cities. It's like, this is her passion. This is her life. I can't explain how funny I find this. Frying Pan says, Keri, my friends and I have mimicked this video for years. Oh my goodness. I never even knew about this video. I'm just now learning about it. So I can't. I look forward to mimicking it in the future. Okay, let's continue. Just she checks in. Just the fact that she wakes up every day and calls like 4 different Bath and Body Works and looking for these specific. These are the candles I want.
4 stores don't have them. That's not what makes me mad. Ticked me off a little bit, but I thought, they'll eventually come in. No big whoop. So I have to calm down because this gets really bad here. So I've been calling. They don't have them. This morning, well, actually yesterday, I called my Appleton store and I said, I hate to bother you again, but I'm calling about these candles. And I said, if I'm harassing you or anything in any way, please let me know. I'm like, because I can be quite persistent. I said, so if you want to take down my name and number, like go right ahead and do that, because that way you guys can call me when you get them in. The Appleton store. I gave her my name and number, hadn't heard from her. I went to the Oshkosh store today, but before I went, I called my Appleton store again. I said, I know I gave you my number and everything. I've been looking for these 2 candles. I'm going to the Oshkosh store. And if you guys have my 2 candles, I'll hit over there.
Okay.
I was amazed. She said, guess what? We have them in. I was like, what? I'm like, please put one of each on hold. I bought 2 peach bellinis a while ago. Actually, I have decided.
Oh no, there's an ad. We're gonna mute it. You guys, this woman, I can't. I feel like I said, you could not create a character better than her. Okay. I guess I should pause it once in a while anyway, so we don't get a strike. So she bought 2 peach bellinis and she's gonna trade them in. When I see this woman, yeah, people in the chat are saying 0 world problems, first world problems. When I see this woman and the way she tells the story, she's also a natural storyteller. And so the fact that she's so obsessed with the candles is funny. The fact that it's like such a passion and she wakes up every day and calls 4 cities, but also the way she tells the story, it actually had me riveted. Like I'm waiting to see what happens. And I feel like, can you imagine her if you put her in a situation with something that actually was important? Like if this woman was, meeting with the UN about disarming nuclear weapons or something, if she was sent in to in a hostage negotiation, and you've got this woman telling, like, can you imagine her talking about something more important than this? It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be funny, but I think the drama here is like at a 9 out of 10. So if it was something that was actually dramatic, I can't even imagine. Okay. Oh no, wait, I think I muted her.
back and exchange them. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So I said, I'm going to go to Oshkosh first. Then I'm going to head, and because I live in Neenah, I said, I'm going to go to Oshkosh first. Then I'm going to head all the way to Appleton to get these 2 candles because I want them. And I know that once they get them in, they're going to be gone. I said, please hold a 3-wick iced gingerbread and a 3-wick winter candy apple. She said, will do. Okay, everything's fine. I get to Oshkosh. My mom and I are shopping around at the outlet mall there.
Frankie says, I know I called you last week about your nuclear weapons.
Just to let you guys know, traffic wise and things, it was a really busy day because the Packers were playing. This is the only good thing that happened. I think the Packers won. I don't know. I've been busy taking care of bitches all fucking day. Okay. So I'm seriously really upset. You guys are not going to believe what just happened to me.
Are you upset?
Okay. So my mom and I are at the outlet in Oshkosh. And all of a sudden I get this call. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. I missed the call. So I call the number back and I'm like, who is this? Someone just called me. And she's like, oh, this is Bath and Body Works. She's like, I was just wondering what time about you are coming. And I said, well, I'm in Oshkosh. We're leaving in about 15 minutes. And then we're headed to Appleton and we will be there right away. I'm just going to go in and out and that's it. Okay. She said, I just want to let you know.
Okay. Part of it is that it's her mannerisms. Again, if she were a character on SNL, like you would be praising the comedian for nailing like the character and for nailing different manners. Like, oh, I love the mannerisms that you brought in. It's also the gum chewing and the like, and just the attitude of like, this is the most serious, dramatic conversation, guys. And like the way she calms herself down, it's like a character. It's like it's a comedic character, but it's not. It's real. This makes it so much better. Okay.
You know that those 2 candles that I said that we had, they're not actually in our store. They're in an off-site store. I'm like, an off-site store. And she's like, yeah, it'll only take us a few minutes to go and get them, but I just want to know where you were abouts at the time. And I said, okay. I said, well, I said, I don't really want to inconvenience you. I said, if you're just going to this
Life is stranger than fiction
store just to get my 2 candles. And she's like, oh, no. She's like, we'll just grab all of them and bring them on over. And I said, okay. I said, well, I'm leaving in about 10 to 15 minutes. I'll be there in a half an hour. Okay, no problem. Great. Hang up the phone. I get to Appleton. My mom does all the shopping. She spent probably like
what's going to
$60,
happen?
I would say, getting stuff. So my mom gets stuff and I go up to the register with my 2 candles and my mom did her transaction first. And I'm like, hi, I'm like, I was the person who called. Can you please, get my candles because I'm just going to exchange them. And the woman looked at me really funny. And she's like, she was really a bitch to me. The first woman who helped me out, she had blonde hair. I don't know her name, but she was kind of rude to me. And she's like, I really don't know anything about that. And I'm like, oh no, that's no problem. I'm like, I'm sure the manager knows, not a big deal. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to help the person in back of you first. And she's like, just wait a minute. So then she leaves and goes to.
So many people are just coming in. They're like, what is happening? We're just having a laugh at the end of the episode because I guess I'm one of the few people who just stumbled on this video that's 9 years old. And I think this woman is hilarious. And this is the kind of true life is stranger than fiction stuff that just cracks me up. This woman, you could not write an SNL original character as funny as this woman. And she's not trying to be funny. Okay.
To get the man.
Honey's giving away
No!
$10,000.
We're going to mute that ad.
Back and says, they're not in the store. And I'm like, oh, no. I just talked to somebody like a half an hour ago and they said that they were going to get them right away and come back. She's like, we didn't leave yet. And I'm like, you didn't leave yet? I'm like, I called about a half an hour ago. I'm like, they should be here. And she said, we've just been really busy. I look around. There's barely anybody in the freaking store. There's barely anybody in the store because Packers are playing today and everybody is at home watching TV where I probably should have been. So I said, okay. She said, let me talk to my manager. So she goes back, talks to the manager, comes back.
Somebody said we should watch it at 2 times speed, but no, it's not as funny. It's because her dramatic pauses are so, like when she has to calm herself down from how angry she is about these candles that she's been looking for months. Also, I know Amy's in the chat saying she collects candles too, but like this is such a passion for you that like, when different scents of candles are coming out and that there's going to be a run on them, like winter candy apples. There's going to be a run on it. Like I just didn't even know this was a thing that people have charts of like release dates for candle scents. And that also makes me
back out. And she's like,
that's very funny.
Okay, well, the girl is leaving right now to get your candles. So yeah, the girl's leaving right now. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere else in the mall. I'm here just for the sole purpose of getting these candles. So I'm going to wait right here. She's like, okay, well, I'll just help the next customer in back of you. And I'm like, okay. So I'm waiting. About 15 minutes later, Miss Jen, manager Jen, comes out and says, I am so, so sorry. I honestly thought that we had your candles at our off-site store, but we only have the small 4 ounces in.
Oh, so mad. Look at her breathing.
And I said very calmly, you're kidding me, right? And she said, no. She's like, what I can do, she said, is I can call around to and I said, no. I said, I've been calling Fond du Lac. Oshkosh, Appleton, where else? Green Bay. I said, I've been calling all the stores. No one has them. And I'm like, I was just so relieved when you told me this morning that you had them. And I came all the way from Oshkosh to get them. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have them? And she's like, we just don't have them. She's like, I'm sorry. It's my mistake. So then I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I guess I'll get
If
my
this is a
peach balloon
cartoon,
candles back.
you'd see smoke going.
And then she's like, okay. So she walks all the way around, gets my candles. As she's packaging them up, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't want to be rude or anything. I said, but I think I deserve something.
Oh gosh.
like-
Okay, this is one of the funniest parts too. Oh my goodness, this is so indicative of this personality type. It's like they've made a big scene, they're upset, the candles are I guess the purpose of her life. She calls 4 different stores in 4 different cities like every day, checking for these specific scented candles, just the winter candy apple and what was it, the gingerbread something, and this wick size and everything. These think about the retail people. They have to be like, oh gosh, it's that lady again. Like she calls all the time. She goes in, there's a mistake. They don't have they do have the candles, but not in the size she wants. They have the 4-inch. She freaks out and now she goes, I think I deserve something. Like I've worked retail. I don't know if you guys have. I've worked customer service. Gosh, this person is so funny to watch in a YouTube video, but if you were there, it would not be funny if you were dealing with this woman. It would be like, oh, how do I get this person out of the store? Like, I think I deserve something. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Like if it's a free item or a gift certificate or something for what just happened here. I said, because I have been on you guys for a week to try to get these candles. And with you telling me that they were here and I came and I carted myself and my mother all the way.
Shop your favorite beauty
No.
brands. Save with code YouTube20
Okay.
across skincare, body care, cosmetics.
To get these mother effing candles. I didn't say that. I'm thinking this in my head. This is all going on in my head. And I had a very pleasant face when I was talking.
Do you see the way she does? She's like
So you know
acting.
You know what
So-
Jen says to me? You know what this goddamn Jen says to me? I can give you some coupons and put these in your bag. And I said, Jen, I have every single coupon that Bath and Body Works has. I said, I have about 10 of them. I don't need any more coupons. I said, can you give me something else?
That's what's really funny too, is of course this lady has, she's like, duh, Jen, I have every single coupon that Bath and Body Works makes. Like, yes, of course she does. This is a woman who calls 4 different stores every day looking for the specific candle. She's got all your coupons, Jen. She doesn't need a coupon. She's got coupons you don't even have, Jen.
Something. She takes my original receipt from my peach bellinis, takes it out of the bag and says, there's an 800 number on the top of this receipt. And when you call, you'll get a live person and you can explain to them what happened. And I'm sure they'll be able to help you with something. And I said, a live person? Who the fuck do you think I'm talking to now?
I'm sorry about the language, guys.
Am I talking to you who is not really here? Are you reality? Because I thought you were a live person.
This woman.
Are you not a live person? I left out the F word.
Okay, thanks for letting
And
us
she
know.
looked at me and said, I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't help you. And I said, give me my candles now. And she kept on apologizing. And I said, I want to leave this store. Give me my candles now. Meaning my peach bellinis. So she gave me my peach bellinis. And I was on my merry fucking way. And that bitch, Jen, you know what I'm going to do, Jen? I'm calling your district manager. I'm telling them what happened and what you did and how you fucked up.
What you did?
And I'm telling them how
She
that other
didn't
blonde
do
girl
anything.
was rude to me. I'm telling them, Jen.
She didn't.
Oh, Jen, your ass is going to get reamed.
She didn't do anything.
It was just a really, really bad situation that ended badly. And I'm done now. Thank you for watching.
Wow.
Please share this video with everybody so we can have everybody know in the state of Wisconsin and around the whole United States that Jen from Appleton needs to check her shit out.
Okay. This is crazy. Thank you guys for watching that with me. So it's so funny. It's funny because, like I said, she's sort of like she's better than any original character on SNL. Because she's real life. That's not but if somebody made that up and did that, you would laugh. I would laugh so hard because the mannerisms, like, but you can't make someone that funny. Like that's a real life. I don't know. I just think life is stranger than fiction. But then by the time you get to the end, how vindictive she is. This is where the Karen. This is a Karen. Yeah. Wow. What a psycho. Yeah. By the time you get to the end, it like stops being funny, and you're like, this woman is effing crazy. Like she's trying to get Jen. She puts in quotes. Jen. She's trying to get Jen fired because they had the wrong size candle at the store. Like that's just, yeah. By the end, you're like, okay, personality disorder. And several people in the chat were saying Josh Slocum should cover this video. I will send it to him. You guys should send it to him too. I think he would be very funny talking about it. Eve says, thank you for the super chat. 10 pounds, thank you, says, I feel her pain. I've been waiting for a badge scented candle for months, but nobody seems to want to squat over my tube of wax. I've even offered to hold the string. Oh, gross. Gross. I think Gwyneth Paltrow was the one doing weird, gross candles that were based on bodily odors. I think that was Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah, might have some issues like that. This video though, it's so funny, like the first 3/4 of it, that I was thinking about, like, whenever I have a bad day, maybe you guys can try this. Whenever you have a bad day or an especially trying day, just remember it wasn't as bad as this lady's trying day. She did a 7 or 8 minute video about not being able to get the specific candle she wanted. Like, her day was hard, not mine. I'm just going to come watch that and have a laugh if I have a really bad day. Okay, that's it. We just ended on something silly. Thanks for hanging out today, guys. Again, if you want to be a part of book club this month, go get the book Political Ponerology. Even if you don't want to be in book club, I think you should read this book. It's a great book. And we will see you on Monday. Take care.